Newark, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Even airports in Alaska and Hawaii would be affected. Let's bring in Going.com travel expert Katie Nastro for more. Katie, let's start big picture here because two airline sources have told NBC News that there could be a roughly 10% cut in flights next year. What exactly would that look like, especially when we're talking about some of these bigger airports like Chicago, Atlanta, LA?
Yeah, so for some perspective, what does 10% mean? So looking at one single day on the schedule, say at O'Hare, 10% less flights means about 120 flights fewer. But the big thing is looking at the seats, roughly 12,000 seats. That's rough math according to Cirium data that we're looking at not having available for people to opt to buy and to get rebooked on if these delays that have been starting to mount really start to occur.
And this is being phased in, right? It's 10% by next week is what they're saying. So the Transportation Secretary says to expect significant delays. At the same time, American Airlines is telling passengers that most of their customers will be unaffected, quote unquote. So if you have a flight coming, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, look, so I think the bright spot is that this is going to be a measured approach. So 4%, United stating that only 200 of their flights are going to be outrightly canceled. So that if you really look at the grand scale, that's not many. But then as we go on, 10% starts to build. So we want people to be hyper aware of any communication with the airline. What I can say is, international flights largely going to be unaffected. Large hub-to-hub transcon, so New York to LA, those flights likely unaffected, but it's the regional flights, these short-haul flights that really could see the biggest impact. So we want people, if they have any quick trips planned over the weekend, stay hyper-vigilant, have your airline app downloaded, definitely set up those push notifications. You get those faster than you do any other form of notification. There are apps out there like Flighty that will actually alert you prior to, but you really just want to stay hyperlinked to your airline.
So what should people do as they're planning for holiday travel?
Now, we don't have a crystal ball. I wish we did over at Going, but we want people to be just starting to think about what are my alternate plans. Maybe I stay home this year. Can I cancel now to get a credit to use for maybe another pricey season, like those winter holiday flights that are up year over year? So we just want people to start thinking about it, but not make any rash decisions until we go through this weekend.
Katie Nastro, thank you. We appreciate it.
Investigators in Florida are trying to figure out what sparked a fire that tore through the home of the head coach of the NBA's Miami Heat.
Erik Spoelstra lived at this home in Miami, and firefighters say when they arrived this morning, the flames were already as tall as the trees. Crews were eventually able to get it under control, but as you can see, the home itself now in ruins. NBC's Jesse Kirsch joins us now from Miami.
Jesse, what more have we learned from investigators, and has Erik Spoelstra said anything about what happened at his house?
Yeah, we have not heard from the coach yet. Unclear if that will be happening. We know that the Miami Heat have a game tomorrow night at home, so potentially if he has any kind of press availability, he'll be asked about this, presumably. But at this point, we haven't had any statement or interview opportunity with the head coach since this unfolded in the early morning hours. Authorities have said that no one was injured, thankfully, but they also have not yet announced any official cause. Now, Spoelstra was last night with the Heat in Denver for an away game. And then hours later, he was seen outside of his home, appearing to be in the same clothing that he was wearing at the game, pacing around the property as all of this unfolded. You can imagine what it would be like to be returning home and seeing your property up in flames. And I can tell you that we've continued hours later to have the smell of smoke in the air out here, well past when the last fire engine left the property here. You can see from the video, the roof is caved in. The wood charred, clearly a devastating loss for this property, but fire officials say they were able to contain this to just the one property. And what you might be able to tell from looking at the video and just seeing what's going on around me here, guys, is that this is a very ritzy area. We're talking about multi-million-dollar homes, gated in, trees all around, and the fire department says that that kind of seclusion, that kind of privacy actually worked against them in this firefight, because it gave them limited access to the property, made it harder for them to fight the blaze. But again, no one injured, no fatalities, and the cause of this fire is still up in the air, guys. Back to you.
Now, that's the biggest question. Jesse Kirsch, thank you.
Coming